With regard to the role of an architect evolving as the company grows, Amber, you've seen it firsthand with Rapid7's rapid growth.
Yeah. It really depends on the organization, depends on the culture of the organization. But in general, what happens, and again, I'm generalizing, is you have an administrator or maybe two or three who maybe are part of the help desk, right? They are fundamentally order takers. You know, we need a checkbox. Okay, I build you a checkbox, right? They work at a ticketing system. Then the organization goes, okay, we have this amazing system. We need to be doing more and better with it. Let's start to think about what that more and better looks like. And hopefully, well, what I usually see happen is they bring in a partner who can help identify those ways that the platform can be better leveraged. Usually the partner goes, hey, you have internal resources over here who know where the bodies are buried. Let's bring them into the conversation. And then that person or those people are elevated in that kind of architectural role. I've seen that happen over and over again. And sometimes those folks don't want that architectural role and they move on, but oftentimes they want to rise to the occasion and be a part of this new way of doing things at their organization. There's not a right way to do it. I don't want to give folks the impression that if you don't do it the way that we talk about in this webinar, you're doing it wrong. It depends on your organization. It depends on how your company is evolving. It depends on how quickly you're moving. It depends on, the face of the moon, like it depends on all of the things. So thinking about, what it is that you, as I'm assuming the people making this decision, the management in this organization are thinking about what it is that they need from someone with this level of expertise. Do you need someone to think about, the usage of the platform 6, 12, 18, 24 months from now, or do you need that checkbox and that report? It's okay to need both, but getting both from the same person is not setting that person up for success. So thinking about how you want to expand headcount and expand, the purview of that team is pretty important.
Brian, any comments on that? And you've seen multiple organizations. In fact, during your time at Toast, the scale was incredible.
Yeah, Toast continues to be nuts based on the people I'm still in touch with there. And it does depend. Toast is a great example. It's a company that does intend to go public, I believe, at some point. So really, as the ecosystem evolves, the company grows, takes on new capabilities, wants to do new things, and then obviously going from a private company to a public company, you have a whole new set of problems that you need to deal with in terms of SOX compliance, audit, regulatory audit issues, a lot of things that an architect maybe in a private company wouldn't necessarily be thinking of, but now has to think about, oh geez, how do I set up the security model that that is going to make sure we have segregation of duties between the order management system and the billing system, or the quoting system and the order management. There's a lot that has to go into that, and that requires a lot of maturity from an SDLC perspective. It's I don't want to sound like a cop-out when we say that it depends. It does depend, and it depends on how the company's growing and in which areas the company is growing and trying to add new capabilities, whether it's in a marketing sense or in a quoting or billing and invoice customer success point of view. I think fundamentally, if we stick to the everybody plays deep fence stand, right? If even as a startup, you have somebody who's thinking longer term and is thinking about not just being, as Ezra said, not just being that ticket taker, but has a long-term vision that jives with the business, then you're going to future-proof yourself a lot better.
Ezra, you've seen, and I mean, you were an architect at Dell, so that's on complete other, just massive scale. But your time at BigCommerce, you've seen the role evolve, and now a team of 3, and your role as chief architect. Tell us about that evolution in your experience.
It's interesting. There's been a very conscious break with basically we kind of evolved a new layer of hierarchy. BigCommerce is growing pretty aggressively. And so we said, it's time to move from managing the expectations of our stakeholders that we can, take orders, and instead say, this is going to be a productive back and forth. We're going to share more of our backlog with our stakeholders and be interacting with them. And it's very interesting because the manager of our practice has asked me to actually narrow somewhat what I do, in the sense that previously I used to be doing the soup to nuts interaction with the stakeholder, be doing a bit of BA analysis and requirements gathering. And we're now finding more specific people to fit into these slots. And so interestingly, even though I've been asked to fulfill what a snazzier sounding title, it's somewhat narrower. They want me to be aware of what the stakeholders need and aware of what the BAs are telling me, but that's no longer my gig. So we are deepening our organization so that we can get more specialists. I'm real excited for it. Those three dimensions I mentioned before, that idea of being hands-on to hands-off, being a solo practitioner inside Salesforce, and being interacting with architects outside of Salesforce. I see all of those dials getting turned for me, so that I'm going to, I have a long and glorious history of nerding out on data, and I have to kind of put that in the box and be more of a grown-up now. So I'm very excited for it. And I think, you come back and ask me in a year, but I think this is a good model for how to shift from startup mentality to mature company mentality. You tell me, Dave, does it jive with your impression of how companies you've consulted have sort of made that step up?
It's been so interesting to watch organizations who might have one person with some Salesforce skills when we're first introduced, and we take on design responsibility, and we'll take on making strategic recommendations based on the goals that we hear about, or the strategies, the go-to-market strategies. We'll help with that. And then as an organization grows, there's some point where the trigger is pulled to hire that first architect, and we'll often be involved. And then there might be another phase where, again, like you're saying, it becomes more specific, specialized, where we might do architecture work within CPQ or within a community or another particular, whether it's integrations. But I do feel like there are phases. I think this leads to really nicely to the next question of